I think we're going to start, and the Iranian delegate will speak when he arrives. So first of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be moderating this panel on Afghanistan and Afghan refugees. I think we can all agree we are living in extraordinary times. Sadly, given the increasing polarization worldwide, that might be one of the few things upon which we can agree. But somehow, maybe it was me, once said, while a respectful discussion may not change someone's mind, it might make them think. So for today's session, it is my hope we can have a respectful discussion that makes us think and perhaps even inspires us toward new thoughts and new paths. I would ask our panel and our audience to keep an open mind, understanding that Afghanistan has been at war for more than 40 years. And perhaps reflect on the possibility that past policies and initiatives have failed to both bring lasting peace to Afghanistan, to the region, and have failed to afford Afghans the opportunity to craft their own solutions toward lasting peace. Perhaps the time has come for new thoughts and new initiatives, greater engagement, less isolationism, and better understanding of ground realities in Afghanistan rather than the realities sought and prescribed by Western and regional capitals. My Afghan journey began with the 1980 Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Through the violent rule of the US-backed Mujahideen groups, which led to the first Taliban rule, followed by the eventual US-led invasion of Afghanistan, and today's return to power of the Taliban. Throughout those nearly 40 years, there has been a continuity of failed policies and initiatives, which, while packaged differently and offered at different times by opposing ideologies, they were fundamentally the same, in that they were crafted on the realities, aspirations, and narratives in Washington, Moscow, Islamabad, and other world capitals, and not by Afghans in Afghanistan. The result since 1979 has been perpetual conflict. Displacement of millions of Afghans, whether inside or outside of their country. Foreign interventions have come and gone, ending in failure and leaving Afghans and their neighbors to live with the consequences. The numbers alone are staggering. Iran now hosts the largest number of Afghan refugees, with 4.6 million Afghans living in Iran, 1 million of whom arrived after the 2021 return of the Taliban to power. Pakistan hosts 3.7 million Afghan refugees, 600,000 of whom arrived after 2021. It must be remembered both countries have been hosting Afghan refugees for more than 40 years. And at different times, for different reasons, the international community has criticized both countries for decisions they have taken to ease the refugee burden. While the criticism may have been warranted, its accompanying outrage has often seemed selective, given that neither country has passed laws to airlift refugees to a third country like Rwanda, or ordered its border officials to separate families, even taking small children from their parents to discourage them from trying to enter the country. I don't say this as an affront to Britain or to America, but to highlight the depth and the breadth of the challenge, as well as the need to look at each other through the same lens, and the even more desperate need to find humane solutions rooted in our shared humanity. Pakistan has its legitimate concerns about attacks on its territory, Iran about its struggling economy, Afghan refugees about being returned home to the only country in the world that is not educating its girls beyond grade 6 and not guaranteeing women their right to work. And the de facto Afghan government also has its legitimate concerns about an influx of refugees to their homeland teetering on the brink of economic collapse. Perhaps the time has come to see what can be done differently, whether policymakers and governments can find a way to see Afghanistan's 40 million people not as a problem to solve, but as the solution. Not as a humanitarian crisis alone, but as a nation that, with the help of the international community, can prosper. The question then becomes how to assist Afghans to craft their own solutions. I would like to respectfully say the policy of isolation was tried when the Taliban last ruled. It failed. And instead, it strengthened those whose agenda benefited from an international community whose only engagement came in the form of a list of demands. Today, the same policy of isolation strengthens those among the current de facto Taliban government who become stronger with the more isolated Afghanistan becomes, and weakens those seeking to engage. But most importantly for me, it leaves Afghanistan's 40 million people also feeling isolated and alone, and that weakens a people's ability to see how they can effect a change. Engaging from Doha, Islamabad, Washington, and elsewhere in the world offers a voice to some, including many of the same voices and faces that contributed toward today's Afghanistan. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't hear, see, understand, and perhaps most importantly, give hope to those 40 million people living inside Afghanistan that they too can effect a change, that they are not alone. I realize recognition is a dirty word, but states do not recognize governments. They recognize states, and Afghanistan as a state is already recognized. So let's just take the word recognition out of the discussion of Afghanistan. The question for me then becomes, how do we come up with an innovative, perhaps a redefining of diplomatic relations that allows an international return to Afghanistan and that would show Afghanistan's 40 million people they are not alone? After 4 decades of war, there is no appetite within or outside of Afghanistan for more war. During their last rule, the Taliban showed the failure of a tactic largely grounded on bullying and public humiliation. The current rulers are the de facto government. You might not like them and most certainly disagree with some of their policies, but there is every indication they are not going anywhere. And in my modest opinion, the goal must be to find a way to get back to Afghanistan, to find the humility to accept that we don't have the answers, and embrace a belief that Afghanistan's 40 million people do have the answer, and that the role of the international community is to help, not dictate. On that controversial note, I would like first to thank the Global Refugees Forum for recognizing and highlighting Afghanistan and Afghan refugees, as well as introduce our panel. Today, we are deeply fortunate to have an extraordinary panel. Dr. Abdullah, His Excellency Dr. Abdullah Mobini, who is the Deputy Minister of Interior of the Islamic Republic of Iran, he will join us when he finishes with the plenary session. Next to him is His Excellency Asif Ali Khan Durrani, the Special Envoy on Afghanistan for the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. And next is His Excellency Shaheen Al-Kabi, Acting Director of the Department of International Cooperation in the Foreign Ministry of the State of Qatar. Next is Ms. Mahbooba Siraj, Executive Director of the Afghan Women's Skills Development Center in Kabul, Afghanistan, and the most recent recipient of the International Gender Equity Prize. Warm congratulations, Mahbooba. Yay, Mahbooba. Next is Mr. Daniel Endres, the UN Secretary General's Deputy Special Representative in Afghanistan. And on my far right is Ms. Sarah Wahidi, founder and CEO of Etisab, Afghanistan's first civic technology startup. We will now watch a 5-minute video that seeks to highlight the resilience and resolve of Afghans, as well as the multi-stakeholder pledges, with emphasis on women and girls.
With the help of trainee midwives in Afghanistan. This is part of a 2-year diploma program supported by UNHCR and the Votan Social and Technical Services Association, a local NGO. The students are from remote areas of the country where limited access to healthcare is a matter of life and death.
هدف می است که جان مادرها را نجات بدم، جان نوزادا را نجات بدم. من بود و طفلش هم دوگانگی بود، به خاطر مسدود بودن را هر دو طفلش از دست داد. چون زمستان بود راه ها کلا مسدود بود به خاطر برفکاج و برفباری و سردی زیاد.
This training gives Afghan women a chance to study and work when there are few other opportunities available to them. Once done, they will return home to their villages to provide life-saving healthcare. During her studies, Shukriya visits her home in Kazan Valley. She meets her neighbor mourning a miscarriage. She had tried to reach a clinic several hours away.
او در شکم از بین رفت. زیاد که درو پیاده روی کردی بازو در شکم از بین رفت دیگه. اگه اینجا کلینیک سایه می داشتی، اگه قابل پیشرفت می داشتی، اگه راه سایه می داشتی، طفل از بین نمیرفت.
Cases like this make Shukriya only more determined to serve her community.
هر وقت میایم به قریه مادرای مثل راحله میبینم، بیشتر برای من انگیزه میده که بیشتر تلاش کنم و بیشتر درس بخوانم که قابل خوب شوم و از مرگ و میر مادران و اطفالها جلوگیری کنم.
The humanitarian situation in Afghanistan remains dire. A record 29.2 million people, including 20 million women and children, continue to require humanitarian and protection assistance. For UNHCR and partners, building resilience among women remains a priority. Entrepreneurship grants give women like Zahra Karimi a chance to develop and expand her business and create livelihoods opportunities for other women.
عاید خانم‌ها برای خیلی مهم است. کسایی هستن که خرج خانه را میارن. یعنی در اقتصاد از واقعا خیلی برای کمک هستن. حتی هزینه مدرسه بچه‌ها یا کسایی که در خانه نان آور ندارن برای واقعا مفیده.
A new women's business center is also under construction in Kabul, partnered with the Afghanistan Women Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The center will have training facilities, a garden, and a children's playground to support aspiring women entrepreneurs, including displaced and returnee Afghans.
It's really important step to have been taken for Afghan women, that they will have their own markets and it will be a woman-to-woman market and they can have their products inside the market and they will have an identity.
Today, Afghans are the third largest forcibly displaced population in the world. 2 million remain internally displaced and 5.5 million Afghan refugees are hosted in Iran and Pakistan, making them the first and fifth largest refugee hosting countries in the world. For over 4 decades, Iran has shown exemplary generosity to millions of Afghan refugees by including Afghans in its national education and health systems. Zahra suffers from a rare respiratory disease. She has access to health services thanks to Iran's inclusive national health insurance scheme. She is also one of the hundreds of thousands of refugee children studying side by side with Iranian children, empowering her and her family to have a dignified future.
زیاد دوست دارم بچه‌م درس بخونه، پیشرفت داشته باشه. نه تنها بچه من، همه بچه‌ها، همه مادرها دوست دارن بچه‌هاشون پیشرفت کنه، ولی با اینکه دخترم بیمار هست، مریض هست، من وقتمو میذارم که بچه‌م درس بخونه، به جایی برسه، علم داشته باشه، فردا روز واسه مملکت کاری بشه، کاری انجام بده.
خیلی به نظر من آموزش برای بچه‌های اتباع، چون اونها وقتی که پناهنده میشه خانوادهشون به ایران، خانواده‌ای هستن که یا جنگ زدن یا مهاجر هستن، پناهنده هستن اینها و شرایط آسیب پذیری دارن و وقتی که اینها به سمت درس و مدرسه کشیده بشن باعث میشه که در آینده بتونن پیشرفت کنن.
But this protracted refugee situation has stretched national resources to the limits. Host countries need more support to enable refugees to live in dignity and self-reliance. With international support, UNHCR and its partners can ensure more refugee children attend schools, more access to health services, and more empowered refugees and host communities. In Pakistan, UNHCR has been supporting the government of Pakistan to provide protection and humanitarian assistance to Afghans and other refugees since 1980. Since 2009, some 12 million refugees and host community members have benefited from 4,300 UNHCR-supported projects. Many focus on skills development and livelihood initiatives to empower women. This year, UNHCR and its partners installed solar panels in Balochistan's Women's Technical Training Center, which stopped power cuts allowing uninterrupted training and studying. Here, both Afghan refugees and Pakistani women learn skills including videography, beautician skills, commercial cooking, and electrician skills.
कोर्सेज तो बहुत आते हैं, काफ़ी आते हैं, लेकिन गर्ल्स के लिए ये अपॉर्चुनिटी बहुत बेस्ट है कि उन्हें इलेक्ट्रिशियन की दी गई है। इलेक्ट्रिशियन इसलिए मैंने चूज़ किया क्योंकि मुझे एक तो पर्सनली मुझे इन चीज़ों में बहुत इंटरेस्ट है मेरा इस तरफ, और दूसरा ये कि हमें गर्ल्स को भी फीमेल्स को भी इस चीज़ का इल्म होना चाहिए, इसकी इंफॉर्मेशन होनी चाहिए। खुदा ना खास्ता घर में कोई हमारे साथ कोई केस हो जाए, कुछ हो जाए, तो हमें आना चाहिए ये काम कि हम अपने घर का काम के अलावा, हमारे डोमेस्टिक वर्क्स के अलावा हमें टेक्निकल की तरफ भी आना चाहिए।
Solidarity with the people in Afghanistan, with refugees in the region and their host communities is needed now more than ever to save lives, build resilience, and work toward solutions.
The video reinforces the determination of Afghan women to persevere even as restrictions increase. It reminds us of the efforts being made in the host countries of Iran and Pakistan, and of the efforts of the UNHCR to help, but it also should reinforce the real difficulties of Afghan women and the real desire of mothers and daughters for education. Since 2021, I have been struck by the extraordinary efforts of Afghan women in and outside of Afghanistan. This short film reminds me of a comment a young Afghan entrepreneur who makes clothes and carpets in Afghanistan's Central Parwan province made via a video link to an exhibition in Dubai earlier this year. She said, "We lost our hope when Afghanistan collapsed, but Afghan women are fighters. We will never allow losing our business to happen." I think we're privileged to have the Deputy Minister of Interior has arrived from the Islamic Republic of Iran. Thank you so much. On that note, I'm going to open up the discussion to the panel. I don't know, Your Excellency, if you would mind if you could start. And this is Dr. Abdullah Mobini, Deputy Minister of Interior for the Islamic Republic of Iran. If you could launch our panel discussion, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. سلام علیکم. با تشکر از هماهنگی برای برگزاری نشست حاضر، نکاتی را در خصوص پناهندگان افغانستانی و میزبانی بیش از 4 دهه دولت جمهوری اسلامی ایران ارائه می‌دهم. کشور افغانستان در چند دهه اخیر به دلیل مداخلات کشورهای خارجی و مشکلات اقتصادی، امنیتی، اجتماعی که همواره بدون تغییر بوده، مبدأ اصلی مهاجران اجباری به کشورهای دیگر بوده است. در این میان اجرای برنامه بازگشت داوطلبانه پناهندگان افغانستانی به کشور خویش در برهه‌های زمانی مختلف و با توجه به شرایط داخلی افغانستان و کشورهای میزبان با فراز و نشیب‌هایی مواجه بوده است. لازم به ذکر است راهبرد بازگشت داوطلبانه پناهندگان به کشور خود در بیانیه پایانی سند راه حل راهبردی برای پناهندگان افغانستانی در سال 2019 اسلام آباد و 2022 تهران مورد تاکید قرار گرفته بود. از این رو پیشنهاد می‌گردد در کنار بازگشت داوطلبانه، موضوع جلوگیری از آوارگی‌های جدید و حذف عوامل محرک مهاجرت اجباری اتباع افغانستانی به عنوان هدف جدید و اصلی راه‌حل‌های راهبردی برای پناهندگان افغانستانی مورد توجه قرار گیرد. این موضوع مستلزم تشکیل دولت فراگیر در جهت بهبود وضعیت سیاسی، امنیتی، اقتصادی، اجتماعی و فرهنگی، به خصوص ایجاد فرصت‌های شغلی و بهبود شرایط برای تحصیل و اشتغال زنان و دختران است. به علاوه پس از وقوع زلزله در هرات افغانستان در اکتبر سال جاری و به دلیل شرایط نامناسب افراد متأثر از این حادثه شاهد آوارگی تعداد زیادی از شهروندان افغانستانی و گسیل آنها به ایران بودیم. از سوی دیگر جامعه بین‌المللی به خصوص کشورهای کمک دهنده باید مسئولیت بیشتری در توسعه زیرساخت‌های کشور افغانستان با هدف ایجاد ثبات و افزایش تابع‌آوری اجتماعی داشته باشد. همچنان که اشاره شد، با توجه به بهبود نسبی شرایط امنیتی در کشور افغانستان، ضروری است دو هدف بازگشت داوطلبانه و اقدام مجدد پایدار پناهندگان در افغانستان مد نظر هیئت حاکمه این کشور و جامعه بین‌المللی قرار گیرد. در خصوص مساعدت به کشورهای میزبان پناهندگان و سیاست‌های کشور هم جهت تداوم میزبانی از پناهندگان افغانستانی نکاتی را ذکر می‌نماید. جمهوری اسلامی ایران در راستای تعهد بین‌المللی خود تلاش نموده تا حد امکان خدمات مناسب را به پناهندگان افغانستانی ارائه نماید و در برخی موارد نیز از سهم عادلانه مسئولیت خویش فراتر رفته است. ثبت نام و تحصیل حدود 700,000 دانش آموز افغانی صرف نظر از وضعیت حقوقی و اقامتی آنان در مدارس دولتی و بدون تبعیض در کنار دانش آموزان ایرانی، اجرای واکسیناسیون سراسری کووید 19 و واکسن سایر بیماری‌های واگیردار، دسترسی به آموزش عالی و تحصیل دانشجویان در دانشگاه‌های ایران، پوشش رایگان بیمه سلامت برای پناهندگان آسیب پذیر، آموزش اتباع از طریق برگزاری دوره‌های سوادآموزی، توانمندسازی مهاجران از طریق آموزش‌های فنی و حرفه‌ای، بهره‌مندی از یارانه‌های مستقیم و پنهان و همچنین دسترسی به فرصت‌های شغلی در ایران و از همه مهمتر اسکان آنها بیانگر بخشی از خدمات ارائه شده کشورم میباشد. این اقدامات در شرایط انجام می شود که جمهوری اسلامی ایران با تحریم یکجانبه و ظالمانه و غیرقانونی آمریکا مواجه بوده است. با این پیش درآمد و نظر به تمامی مشکلاتی که ما را در اجرا و تداوم خدمات حمایتی داریم، چند دهه میزبانی سبب تحمیل هزینه‌های هنگفت اقتصادی، اجتماعی، فرهنگی و حتی امنیتی بر جامعه محلی میزبان شده که نتیجه آن کاهش تابع‌آوری جامعه میزبان جهت پذیرایی تعداد انبوه اتباع افغانستان است. از سوی دیگر میزان کمک‌های جامعه بین‌المللی به ایران جهت میزبانی از پناهندگان بسیار بسیار ناچیز بوده و کمتر از 1% هزینه‌های میزبانی را پوشش می‌دهد. در پایان یادآوری می‌گردد که مسئولیت اقدامات بشردوستانه باید به صورت منصفانه و عادلانه تسلیم شود. از این رو درخواست می‌گردد جامعه بین‌المللی سهم منصفانه خود برای تقسیم بار میزبانی از پناهندگان افغانستانی را بر عهده گیرد. در این راستا حمایت از توسعه زیرساخت‌های آموزشی، معیشتی، بهداشتی و درمانی در ایران باید مورد توجه قرار گیرد تا مجبور نشویم با اقدامات قهرآمیز و اجتناب ناپذیر مواجه شویم. سپاسگزارم از وقت و توجهی که حوصله‌ای که صرف کردید. با تشکر. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mobini. And now if we could hear from His Excellency Asif Ali Khan Durrani, the Special Envoy on Afghanistan for the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, please.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And since the topic is about the refugees, we also had, since the arrival of the Soviet troops in Afghanistan, at one point of time, we had 4.5 million Afghan refugees. After the 9/11, almost 2 million left because there were opportunities created after the 9/11 with the arrival of the American and coalition forces. However, this coming and going between Pakistan and Afghanistan has been a historical fact. Even now, almost 30 to 35,000 Afghans, they straddle Pakistan's border every day. Of course, with the introduction of this one document regime, there have been some problems because earlier we had 3 regimes. One was biometric passports, second was e-tazkira, and third was just paper tazkira. So paper tazkira and e-tazkiras did not give ample information about the person coming to Pakistan. So this has been done away with. Already we had introduced one document regime at our Torkham border for the past 6-7 years, and now it has been introduced all along the border, especially Chaman-Boldak border. So that is now in vogue, and gradually people will be used to it because it is into their benefit. It is also for the benefit from the security point of view because we did not have ample information about who is coming and who's going, especially in a situation when we are facing TTP attacks along our border on almost daily basis. So this has become an reason for that. Secondly, you may have seen many commentaries and news reports about the deportation of the Afghans. Those were not the legal Afghans staying in Pakistan. The alarming thing came up 4 months ago when 13,000 Pakistani passports were confiscated in Saudi Arabia, and those were Afghan nationals holding Pakistani passports. So that was the reason which prompted the government to go for an overhaul, just not for the illegal stayers in Pakistan, but also the official responsible in Pakistan. So this is the background I want to say. And let me reiterate, not a single person who is a valid document holder, whether proof of residence card holders, which are 1.4 million in Pakistan, or Afghan citizen card holders, ACC card holders, which are 0.9 million. They have the legal right to stay in Pakistan. They are staying in Pakistan. They are enjoying equal opportunities. They can have their bank accounts. They are doing business. Their children are going to Pakistani schools and colleges, universities without discrimination. What fee a Pakistani student pays, Afghan students pay. Apart from that, we have completed 2 phases of scholarships, 3,000 each in just last month. And now we have introduced another phase for 5 years of 4,500 Afghans to be studied, to be given education. Those are the scholarships. I'm not talking about the self-finance basis, which they can do, and they can just pay the fee which a Pakistani student pays. And so they have the equal opportunity. And after the 9/11, when I was posted there, any young boy or girl behind the computers had invariably got education in Pakistan. Cricket is another living proof of the kind of cultural mixing between the two nations are concerned. And in any case, it's Afghans or Pakistanis on both sides of the border, they enjoy the symbiotic relationship. This is a unique relationship which is not available anywhere in the Afghan neighborhood. And the kind of access which Afghans enjoy in Pakistan is not available to its neighborhood elsewhere. They have other 5 neighbors also. So document regime is first time Pakistan has introduced. We continue to give our assistance to the Afghans. It is irrespective of who they are and whosoever rules in Afghanistan. We have been colorblind as far as Afghanistan's regimes are concerned, whether it was communist coup or the Russians, or after that Mujahideen governments or Taliban, and then subsequently US-led coalition, and then US injected democracy in Afghanistan is concerned. So we did not discriminate. We did normal business with the Afghans. Yes, there were reasons. Perhaps we may have downgraded our relationship during the communist regime, but our trade, our other relationship continued unabated. Because between Pakistan and Afghanistan, you cannot apply the international relations, the kind of symbiotic relationship we have with Afghanistan. And which is why that we have to continue and we have to interact with the people, irrespective of which regime rules in Afghanistan. I'll stop here, and I'll be glad to answer any questions if there are. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And now if we could please, thank you very much. And now if we could please hear from His Excellency Shaheen Al-Kabi, the Acting Director of the Department of International Cooperation in the Foreign Ministry of the State of Qatar, please.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to participate in this event, and I would like to thank the organizer for this timely meeting to discuss the situation in Afghanistan. For decades, the Afghan people have suffered and lived under difficult circumstances of conflict, natural disasters, economic collapse, chronic poverty, drought, food insecurity, and terrorism. Afghanistan currently confronts of especially complex series of humanitarian, socio-economic, development, and political challenges. To address this difficult situation, all efforts are essentially needed to intensify emergency humanitarian assistance to the people of Afghanistan, to maintain dialogue and communication with Afghanistan and keep humanitarian support delinked from any political consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, in line with our foreign policy that encourages the peaceful settlement of disputes through dialogue and negotiation, Qatar's engagement in Afghanistan has always been constructive, clear, and specific to help the Afghan people achieve freedom, peace, and development. In 2021, Qatar facilitated one of the largest evacuation operations in modern history, as it evacuated more than 100,000 people from Afghanistan to Qatar, including students, teachers, activities, lawyers, medical professionals, artists, and others. All evacuees were provided with the basic need, including hygiene supplies, clothing, adequate health services, and special need assistance. Several entertainment and educational activities were conducted daily for children and adults in coordination with local partners such as Qatar Foundation, Qatar Museums, Qatari Olympic Committee, the Ministry of Culture, Qatar Charity, and the Qatari Red Crescent. Afghan women who felt that they were unsafe were accorded special attention. For example, the Afghan Dreams team, a robotic team consisting of girls aged 15 to 19 years, were safely evacuated to Qatar and awarded scholarships to continue their education in order to secure a better future. With the help of the Qatar Afghan Scholarship Project, Afghan refugees students continue their education at college and universities outside of Afghanistan. The Education Above All Foundation, supported by the Qatar Fund for Development, provided the opportunity for the first cohort of 215 Afghan students, half of whom are women, to resume their studies and after having left Afghanistan in U.S. colleges and universities for the 2022-2023 academic years. In December 2022, the State of Qatar partnered with the Republic of Indonesia to host the International Conference for Afghan Women's Education held in Bali, Indonesia. The conference resulted in an international declaration where participants reaffirmed their strong support for the solidarity with the people of Afghanistan in attaining durable peace, stability, and prosperity, and underlined the importance of women's education in that regard. In February and March this year, Qatar Fund for Development signed two memorandums of understanding, the first with the Islamic Republic of Iran to provide education for approximately 25,000 Iranian and Afghan refugee children. The second aimed to enroll 30,000 students, of whom 50% are girls, to complete their primary education in several Afghan provinces. Ladies and gentlemen, following up our effort to support Afghan refugees and the country hosting them, Qatar has assumed this year leadership as the chair of the core group of the support platform for the solution strategies for the Afghan refugees, SSAR support platform. In this regard, we affirm the importance of the new multi-stakeholder pledge for Afghanistan entitled Resolve for Resilience and Solution, which seek to put the Global Compact's principle of burden and responsibility sharing into their practice. This pledge offers a range of opportunities in line with the solution strategy for Afghan refugees and the United Nations Strategic Framework for Afghanistan to expand solutions and enhance the resilience of Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, and the community hosting them. We encourage all the state and stakeholders to continue engaging for the Afghanistan situation and to show solidarity through the mobilization of technical, financial, and political support for the Afghan people. Before ending my intervention, I would like to stress that the people of Afghanistan deserve to live in dignity, peace, and security. To achieve this aim, long-term sustainable solutions are desperately needed. This required not only increased humanitarian assistance, but also greater economic stability and the resumption of development assistance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you. We're going to have a 1-minute video. I feel like we should have served popcorn, but we're going to have a 1-minute video followed by Mr. Andres, the UN Secretary General's Deputy Special Representative on Afghanistan.
Good. Shall I? Thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you for hosting this very important SSAR event. I will give a perspective from the United Nations within Afghanistan, but of course one cannot do that without looking at the region as a whole. So as already mentioned, referred to in the earlier video, Afghanistan is is having 29.2 million people in need of humanitarian aid. That's the highest number of people in need of humanitarian aid in the world. It has one of the highest maternal mortality rates for the last decades, even during the last 20 years, that has not been addressed. And so we are starting our work in Afghanistan at a very difficult moment where Afghan people suffer immensely. In addition to this, in the recent months, and we have seen additional crises or even years. I think one that is really particularly serious is the severe restrictions that are applied on girls' education, in particular the secondary school. That's, in my eyes, the most impacting restriction on women in Afghanistan. But also for women to work, there are severe restrictions. There are exemptions in the sectors of education, health, economy, agriculture, and security. That's normally where women are allowed to work, but of course there are many other parts where they are restricted. This has led to a severe drop in the funding that has been provided to Afghanistan, and I would say also to the region. Only as compared to last year, the funding has gone down this year by about $1 billion, and that of course has impacted especially the women and children, most of it. So it is with some irony when some member states say that they want to support Afghan women, but they refuse to support Afghanistan if there are no women's rights given. This is, in a way, if you want to be with Afghan women, please support the region. It's also very remarkable that the support to Pakistan and Iran has gone down equally. So you see a squeeze between the three countries, and the host countries suffer, and of course the Afghans themselves. In addition, there are about 6 million internally displaced people, of whom 3 million are conflict-induced. And only recently, on the 7th of October, there were 3 large earthquakes north of Herat that have almost entirely absorbed the humanitarian capacity that we had inside Afghanistan. And now there is a massive return of Afghans from both Pakistan and Iran at a difficult moment just before winter. And in addition, we see no engine of growth in the economy. The economy has dropped by 25% in August 21 and has been relatively stable, but it doesn't provide the necessary jobs and support that is needed. In addition, Afghanistan is one of the 10 most impacted countries in climate change, and the neighboring countries are probably in the same category. Now we should build on opportunities. These opportunities are improved security, less corruption, the eradication of poppies, and also, of course, the determination and resilience of the Afghan population. This has also, of course, we can really build on that. We can reach every part of the country. 3 million children have been vaccinated thanks to the increased access in addition. So there are opportunities as well on which we need to build. These opportunities we should, in particularly where the UN country team has made a pledge for the Global Refugee Forum in the fields of health, education, and livelihood, which we saw in the first movie, well demonstrated. Now, what is the purpose for us to be together, and where should Afghanistan go? I think as the special coordinator appointed by the Secretary General to review the engagement, international engagement on Afghanistan said, it must not plunge back into a black hole. We need to engage, and we need to support it, and we need to provide stability, security, and support the economy. I think in closing, I would like to say, the region, not just Afghanistan, has been impacted severely in the last 40 years by global powers that have, exercised their efforts, especially in Afghanistan. That has led to large economic damage, social turmoil, and immense suffering. It is really our obligation now to stay with the region as a whole and to address these challenges and this suffering, not to dictate, as you so rightly said, Kathy, but to be there in support, and that's our responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Endres. And now we're going to hear from Mahbouba Siraj, the Executive Director of the Afghan Women's Skills Development Center in Kabul, Afghanistan. Go ahead, Mahbouba.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm absolutely honored to be here amongst all of you and to be able to talk a little bit about the situation of my country. I'm an Afghan woman, actually an Afghan-American woman, because I had to go to the United States at one point, and I was a refugee. So I know how it feels to be a refugee. I lived as a refugee, and I did work as a refugee in the United States for years. And then I came back to Afghanistan in 2003. And I decided to be next to my sisters and the children of Afghanistan and try to help them in any way and shape possible. Mainly, I put all of my effort at that time with the rest of the world on education. And the women and girls of Afghanistan today, a big group of them, that they are unfortunately outside Afghanistan, and they are gone because of the situation in Afghanistan, because the government does not recognize them as human beings, is unfortunately the result of all of the 20-something years of my work and the work of some women next to me and the international community. We did a great job in Afghanistan, believe me, but none of them are there. Right now, I saw a movie, and the movie that you were showing about the skills that the Afghan women are learning in the child and mother and child maternity and death. We started tackling this thing in Afghanistan in the beginning when I went there. That was 2004, 2005, 2006. And we really succeeded quite a lot. And now we have to start back all over again. Every single time when there is a change in Afghanistan, the women and the people of Afghanistan are pushed back 100, 150 years. And this is not a joke. And that's exactly what happens in Afghanistan. We are pushed backwards. Again, we are pushed. And this time, we are pushed because the de facto government does not recognize the women of Afghanistan. We don't exist for them. It's absolutely, when they look at us, they don't see us, they don't recognize us, they don't give us our right, and that's all we want. And as a woman, I am going to be their voice and raise their voice for as long as I am around, because that is extremely important. The women of Afghanistan cannot disappear. At the same time, I do have, I'm very grateful. I really want to tell you, I'm extremely grateful to the two countries that they are our neighbors, Iran and Pakistan. Because at the time when we had problems, who do you think we were running to and we were feeling safe and taken care of? It was either Iran, a part of my country went to, and the other part went to Pakistan. But unfortunately, like everything else, that did not stay the same. Things started to change, things started to be used in many different ways, and Afghanistan was that too. So today, unfortunately, whenever I'm asked, I say we are absolutely cursed by having some of the most uncooperative neighbors around us, although they are still helping us. And right now, I actually heard that the Iranian the government has given the right to the people of Afghanistan to get education. I cannot tell you how happy that made me, because this, after all, it just proves the human-to-human contact, which is absolutely the most important. I don't care, ladies and gentlemen, what the world says, because at the end of the day, at the end of the time, we are countries, we are people, there are people living in there, there are human beings, and this is going to be the human-to-human contact. Always. I don't care what names they give it. The world loves to call it so many different things and really take it away from the very basic of what we are supposed to be doing and be for each other. And then everything else is like, all sorts of words and these words and these words and these meetings and all of that. And then so confusing that at the end of the day, we don't even know what hit us. But then what really comes to is the numbers. And the numbers are, 4.5 million people left, after the Russian invasion in Afghanistan. I'm a refugee from that time. I'm a refugee from 1978, believe it or not. Dear God. From 1978 until now, Afghanistan have been going through hell. We really have been. Every single time there is something, we want to get up on our feet, stand up and do something, something happens and hits us on the head, and we are gone again. And mostly that blow comes from either one of our neighbors. It's like, excuse me? Why on earth is this? I don't understand it. We are supposed to be living together. I cannot change my neighbor. I can do anything that I want in this world, but how am I going to change my neighbor? We have to understand each other. We have to work with each other. We have to respect each other. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point? And if the world thinks, and if these countries, they really do believe that nothing like this can happen to them, they are really mistaken. If something like that could happen to Bosnia, to Ukraine, believe me, it can happen anywhere. It can happen anywhere. So it's not going to be only Afghanistan that is having these problems. It can be any place. So what I'm really asking the world, what I'm really asking my neighbors, what I'm really begging everybody, the government in Afghanistan, they don't even want to talk to me because I'm a woman. But I'm trying to talk to them. I'm trying to get to them. And that's what I say. We have to have some kind of a conversation. That, we cannot be living like this. We have to have an understanding of each other. I thank you very much for listening to me, and I'm terribly sorry if I have to be so. I'm not emotional. This is who I am, and I'm not going to apologize because my emotions really they don't get involved. They don't get on the way. This is who I am, and as a woman, that's exactly how I want to talk about my country. Thank you.
And we love who you are, Mahbouba. and we love who you are. And now we're also very happy to hear from Sarah Wahidi. She's the founder and CEO of SSAR, Afghanistan's first civic technology startup. It's really a pleasure, Sarah.
Thank you, everyone. I feel very emotional after Madam Siraj's comments. Madam Siraj is a refugee from the 1970s, and I'm a refugee of 1996. So this is cyclical, and there's many sisters here who are now refugees of 2021. So this is 3 generations here. There you go. There's someone right there who is from this last generation, 3 cyclical generations of refugees. Good afternoon, esteemed excellencies and distinguished guests. I am profoundly grateful to SSAR and the Global Refugee Forum for this opportunity to address you today. As I prepared for today's event, I sought insights from Afghan youth, a demographic that forms 65% of Afghanistan's population, yet their voices remain underrepresented in public discourse. And their perspectives are vital, as they are the architects of Afghanistan's future. First, there was a story of Benjamin, a young man from the Afghan Hazara community, residing in Indonesia for 11 years. He painfully recounted 18 suicides within his community. Then there was Zainab from Iran. She described herself as a walking corpse, devoid of the fundamental freedoms to dream or breathe in a society that stifles her very existence. And lastly, there was Hosna from Pakistan, living in constant fear of deportation, despite unable to speak Dari or Pashto well, with her native tongue being Urdu. The deportation ban leaves her in a state of limbo with nowhere to call home. The recurring theme in these narratives is dignity, or rather the stark absence of it. These young Afghans yearn for the dignity to identify as humans, whether in Iran, Pakistan, or Indonesia. Their desperation to continue their education and chase their dreams is palpable, yet they find themselves in a paradoxical state of refuge, one that neither offers the fullness of safety and strips them of their dignity. To the esteemed dignitaries from Iran and Pakistan, our shared borders symbolize more than geographical lines. They represent shared cultures, economies, and the dynamism of the future generations that exist across our lands. While laws and policies may define borders, they cannot govern the human spirit and its quest for survival and dignity and the hope for a better tomorrow. As co-signatories of the 1951 Convention related to the status of refugees, it is our collective duty to ensure that Afghan refugees are treated with the dignity they deserve. Border control and migration management must not translate into indignity for those seeking refuge. In my role as the CEO and founder of SSAR, I'm steadfast in my commitment to continue developing a platform that democratizes access to information for individuals, including enduring the hardships of displacement. Our primary focus is on delivering real-time alerts across Afghanistan's 34 provinces, and we are eager to expand our work to other crisis regions across the world. Our overarching goal is to democratize information and consequently document instances of human rights violations and civic concerns. By doing so, we aim to break the cycle of temporary solutions and closely monitor real-time events to facilitate sustainable change. Particularly in light of the unprecedented displacement of 1.4 million refugees from Pakistan, documenting cases of inadequate access to healthcare, mismanagement of aid, and various other challenges empowers us to work toward accountability and sustainability during this unprecedented crisis. Like many of you in this room, I have experienced the journey of a refugee. During my recent conversations with these youth, I encountered a young woman who was banned from completing her university education at Kabul University. She has 2 children as well. I felt a sense of déjà vu because my mother, too, faced a similar situation when she was barred from pursuing her dream of becoming a doctor due to restrictions at Kabul University in 1996. Experiencing this again, almost 30 years later, is, to be blunt, nothing less than criminal. Allowing such injustice to persist is beyond words, and we must fervently ensure that we collectively put an end to this cycle of trauma within our lifetime. I also want to conclude on one point. I'm observing a concerted effort across the international community to distort women's voices and delegitimize their fight to the protection of their fundamental human rights. No matter how exhausted the international community is with Afghanistan, Afghan women and girls will not be the scapegoat of failed democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And having listened to the last two speakers, the women, again, it brings home how powerful Afghanistan's women really are, and women in general. So now, we will now turn to our participants. Because of our time limitations, those wanting to speak register beforehand and have been asked to please restrict their comments to an absolute maximum of 3 minutes. Also, our panel has made some amazing points, I think, and brought some really interesting discussion points to the fore. So it would be great if those can be addressed or some conversation with our panel. So the first participant is from the Netherlands. Mr. Warner ten Kate, head of the Migration and Development Division at the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Yeah, thank you, Cathy.
You're very welcome.
Actually, I'm also humbled by the contributions of the panel. Thank you very much. It's been enlightening, and also, Cathy, your presentation was yeah, it taught me a lot. The Netherlands, in reaction a little bit, we maybe there's a little spark of positivism, because we have started working on refugees in the area of Afghan, working on Afghan refugees. And so we've just started a year ago, and we're still very green. We have become vice chairman of the SSAR under the chairmanship of His Excellency Al-Kabi. Good to see you here as well, and again, and we're ready to support your chairmanship in that respect. Yeah, so our pledge was 50 million for the region per year. At least for the coming year and the past 2 years. So that's our budgetary system. Yeah, what more can I say? Yeah, we do acknowledge the fact that the region has been, let's say, slightly forgotten if you compare it with other refugee situations, and that's the reason we stepped in. We also take special care of hosting communities in recognition of the fact that, like in Pakistan, you did have your disaster with the floods, for example, and Pakistani people have no easy life themselves. Yeah, reacting to your, I find it very, I also take the call for engagement with Afghanistan. We all know how difficult that is, and I'm not also deciding here and then what the Netherlands is going to do with this, because these are, there's a lot of higher politics engaged, which makes it difficult for us to operate. But make sure that I will go back to the Netherlands and take this call, these ideas with me and discuss them in our ministry. In a reaction to His Excellency Durrani on the plan for the Afghan illegal foreigners. I'm very happy to hear that the POR and ACC card holders will be exempted from the event of the effort. And yeah, of course, we also, I think, who said that His Excellency Andres, we have some concerns about the winter season in which this is taking place, and also, yeah, we would call for a screening mechanism, maybe to ensure that people who really do need protection can be found, and if there's a need for assistance in that respect, the Netherlands would be able to provide that assistance. Yeah, I hope simply that in the coming years, Netherlands will be that we will continue in good cooperation. And learn more to help solve these, as I realize now, very complicated problems. But yeah, let's stay together in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And so right when you say complicated. Next, we are going to hear from Denmark. I'm sorry, I don't have the name because we have a new person, so I apologize.
That's okay. Yeah, it works. Okay. I'm also a newcomer here in town. I've been here for a month. My name is Ib Petersen. I'm the ambassador and permanent representative of Denmark to the UN here in Geneva, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all, and not least the distinguished panel. It's always a pleasure when and great when you are participating in big events like this forum, and you feel that you actually learn something when you then also sit down and listen to good panels in a setting like this. From a Danish side, we really, and we have emphasized this, just share and prioritize that we do not forget about Afghanistan in the current situation. And I think the points made about the lack of funding for the huge needs in Afghanistan, in the region, just tell the story and the necessity of keeping this focus. From our side also, we are deeply committed to the necessity of keeping the focus on the women of Afghanistan, the girls of Afghanistan, both in Afghanistan, of course, also in the neighboring countries, the host communities, through so many people, as we heard here. And I think this is also why we are here, the Global Refugee Forum, because this, the status and the situation we have in the region cries for a global response. And we will continue to be part of that response from a Danish side. We are pleased to announce that we will initiate now a new phase of what we call the Region of Origin program for Afghanistan refugees in the region. Over the coming 2 years, the program will have a budget of approximately $19 million pending parliamentary approval. That will come, I can assure you. And it will serve as a bridge between humanitarian relief and development aid, focusing on health and education for displaced Afghans, particularly women and girls, as I said, in both Afghanistan, in Iran, and in Pakistan. And we look forward to work with partners. As was said in the first video here, we really need to invest in the empowerment, the capacity of the women and the girls, not only to bring back Afghanistan, hopefully on a better track. I think it's a very complicated situation. It's not that easy as you said about engage, because there are many things here, and the current regime, the way that they are treating women, the way that they are banning women, actually trying to make them invisible, as was said by others, is totally unacceptable, and that can never be supported. So that's why we need to invest so much more together with the partners in the neighboring countries, in the capacity, in the empowerment, and in the dignity and rights of the women of Afghanistan, and in the region and in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from the European Union, Ms. Erika Goretzen, Director Migration, Human Development, Human Rights and Peace, Director General for International Partnerships, European Commission.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Kathy, and I'm really humbled after having heard indeed the testimonies this afternoon, and also happy to speak after 2 EU member states, the Netherlands and Denmark, and also as EU former co-chair of the SSAR, and I'm happy indeed to hand over to the Netherlands to continue the work that we have started doing, and really also to thank the UNHCR for having convened this event this afternoon, which is extremely important indeed. The EU has supported the solution strategy for Afghan refugees, the SSAR, since its inception in 2012. And I would like to acknowledge here and commend the inclusive policies and the support to displaced Afghans provided over the decades by the Islamic Republic of Iran and of Pakistan. This meeting happens indeed in a very particular critical moment for the Afghan population affected by multiple crises in their own country. Humanitarian, economic, political, social crisis and facing increasing pressures in their hosting communities abroad as well. The EU supports the non-return advisory issued by the UNHCR and remains particularly concerned about the situation of vulnerable refugees and migrants seeking international protection, especially for women, girls, and those Afghans who may risk their lives should they face the perspective of being returned to Afghanistan. Since 2021, the EU has put in motion the regional Team Europe initiative on the Afghan displaced situation, gathering humanitarian and development services from EU institutions, as well as from 12 EU member states, with the aim to address the Afghan regional displacement crisis under the humanitarian peace and development nexus. So far, Team Europe initiative members have provided 1.1 billion euros to provide durable solutions for displaced Afghans and their host communities in Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, as well as Central Asia. Our efforts focus on increasing protection, improving livelihood opportunities and access to basic services, including health and education, as well as on tackling trafficking in human beings and the smuggling of migrants. This support is closely linked to our role within the SSAR support platform, and we are committed to continuing our efforts towards these durable solutions in affected countries by working together with like-minded donors, governments, and international organizations. The EU is therefore supporting the Resolve multi-stakeholder pledge for the Afghanistan situation proposed by the UNHCR and has committed to support basic needs assistance as well as durable solutions for displaced Afghans and their host communities with an amount of 345 million euro in humanitarian and development funding. The EU will also continue supporting its member states in their efforts to provide protection to Afghans at risk through resettlement and humanitarian admission under the forthcoming EU Resettlement and Humanitarian Admission Scheme for 2024-2025. Many thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next, if we could hear from Japan, the Ambassador, Hansei Koso, Deputy Permanent Representative, Permanent Mission of Japan. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Can you hear me? Yeah, because I can hear me yes well. And thank you for the panelists, your presentation. I listened to all of you very carefully because we have hosted the Afghanistan donors meeting in the past twice. So I was appointed for the Director of International Cooperation that time in 2012. So I had some kind of responsibility of Afghanistan right now. Afghanistan refugees and ADPs continues one of the largest forcibly displaced groups worldwide, and it is crucial to bring attention to this prolonged humanitarian crisis. I therefore express my sincere appreciation to the organization of this event. I also extend my gratitude to Qatar as well as Holland for their leadership in supporting the platform for the SSAR. Over the past year, Japan has initiated various humanitarian projects inside Afghanistan in collaboration with the UNHCR and other agencies. We have provided support for livelihood, education, and women empowerment, as well as emergency grant aid in response to earthquake in the western part of Afghanistan. In addition to the collaboration, the Japanese government intends to pledge continued support to Afghanistan, Iran, and Pakistan over the next 4 years. We commit to providing assistance for education, health service, skills training, livelihood improvement, and agriculture in Afghanistan as its neighboring countries, particularly Iran and Pakistan. This assistance will target both refugees and IDPs and their host communities in alignment with the SSAR. Furthermore, we pledge to assist in improving the situation within Afghanistan to make it conducive for refugees and IDPs to return to their places of origin in line with the SSAR. We are determined to improve these pledges through JICA and in collaboration with the UN organizations, the private sector, and of course, civil society. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to hear from ICFA and ADSP, Mr. Hussan Waqar, Project Coordinator at the Asia Displacement Solutions Platform, speaking on behalf of the NGO membership of ADSP and the International Council of Volunteer Agencies.
Thank you, Kathy. Distinguished delegates, this statement is delivered on behalf of Asia Displacement Solutions Platform and the International Council of Voluntary Agencies. In 2019, the inaugural GRF re-energized the SSAR through the launch of Support Platform. Challenging circumstances then placed renewed pressure on prospects for solutions. As dire humanitarian conditions persist in Afghanistan, UNHCR's non-return advisory remains in effect and all efforts are required to avoid further harm to Afghans, including providing access to documentation and legal stay. It is also imperative to ensure Afghan refugees and host communities can shape their own future, having a say in defining what showing resilience and seeking solutions means. For decades, sovereignty in the region has aligned with the welcoming tradition. We call on all stakeholders to continue to abide by their legal responsibilities, including in avoiding arbitrary arrests and detention. As customary international law and cornerstone of the Refugee Convention, non-refoulement is essential to international solidarity. Simultaneously, a concrete act of humanity and a basis for increased responsibility sharing. We also urge donors to find modalities to support Afghan and host communities through additional long-term funding. Clearly, a support platform anchored in the GCR's multi-stakeholder approach can help generate this solidarity. If properly resourced, NGOs' experience in working with Afghans and host communities can bring a value added to the platform. Therefore, building on our past efforts, ADSP and ICFA commit to meeting the platform members and Secretariat to strengthen NGO engagement in a way that maintains trust and efficiency. Even in times of competing crises, refugees deserve our unambiguous and principled support. We appeal to the platform to step up coordinated work towards transitional solutions and improved responsibility sharing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Madame Patricia Barandoun from Switzerland. I won't force you to endure my French, so I will allow you to explain your position.
Thank you. I'm Patricia Barandoun. I'm the head of section Migration and Forced Displacement at the Swiss Agency for Cooperation and Development. Thank you very much to UNHCR for convening this meeting. And as a woman and as a Swiss government representative, I would like to express our solidarity with the women and the girls in Afghanistan. And thank you also for reminding us that women's rights are fragile, and they can be fragile not only in Afghanistan, but everywhere. So with this, I would like to express Switzerland's continued support to the people of Afghanistan. We are currently in the process of resuming our presence on the ground, and we are also glad to be a core member of the core group of the SSR support platform. Switzerland supports the Resolve Pledge, as many of you who are here today, for the Afghanistan situation for resilience and solutions. Our contribution to this pledge is to continue improving the situation of Afghan refugees in the region, in particular in Pakistan, where we support Afghan refugee youth with a special emphasis on women and girls, with around 6.5 million US, and we will continue to support, to stand with you, and to listen to you, and to dialogue together through the UN who convenes us. And I'm very pleased also to hear from you, Secretary General, Deputy Special Representative for Afghanistan, that the UN on the ground is working together, because one agency is not enough, one voice is not enough. the UN's voice has to be as one, and I'm very glad to hear that from you today. So thank you very much, and I look forward to our continued collaboration.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and very interesting about being on the ground. We're now going to hear from Austria and Mr. Christian Fitzweiser, Deputy Director General, Austrian Federal Ministry of the Interior, please. Ms. Oh, sorry. I am so sorry. I blame
Yes, I think
the
there was a
paper. It said Mr.
misunderstanding.
Ms. I apologize.
So my name is Eva Maria Schäffner. I'm from the Ministry of Interior, from the Department of Asylum. So a little bit of different perspective. Thank you for convening this very important meeting, and it is a great honor to speak here, to be able to take the floor amongst you, esteemed excellencies and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the floor. We appreciate very much the solution strategy for Afghan refugees and the engagement linked to it. And of course also the achievements made so far. Please allow me to extend my heartfelt thanks for that. Thank you. The region is of key importance to Austria in the external dimension and in the external dimension of migration in particular. Notably with a focus on Afghan refugees and providing them protection and livelihoods in the region. To provide more context to you, apart from Syrians, Afghans have been the largest group of refugees in Austria for many years. For example, from 2015 to October this year, over 91,000 Afghans applied for asylum in Austria, which is a high number for our relatively small country. Last year alone, it was 25,000 asylum applications from Afghans. So please let me now present to you two pertinent pledges we are about to make at this year's forum. The first pledge is to provide support to refugees, undocumented and newly arrived persons from Afghanistan in public services and social cohesion efforts in Iran. Austria acknowledges the presence of one of the world's largest refugee populations, primarily originating from Afghanistan, residing in Iran. Considering the economic challenges and increased vulnerabilities, Austria pledges to sustain and strengthen Iran's inclusive refugee policy. Recognizing the limited permanent solutions, Austria emphasizes the need for international support to ensure continued access to essential services within Iran's national asylum systems. Austria also commits to bolstering UNHCR's coordinating role, striving to enhance social protection and cohesion for Afghan individuals in Iran through equitable access to national health care, education, and social services. The second pledge involves a change of perspective. It is the stimulation of economic development and improved employment opportunities for Afghan and Pakistani young adults. So it is intended to help the target group to increase chances on the labor market and also to provide new perspectives on the ground. The target group is Afghan and Pakistani women and men between 21 and 35 years who would refrain from migrating to another country under the condition of better job opportunities. So we very much want to work very evidence-based and bring this approach further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for the...
No problem.
Now we'd like to welcome From Australia, Ms. Amanda Gorley, the Ambassador and Permanent Representative to the UN and to the Conference on Disarmament in Geneva, please.
Thank you very much, Kathy, and thank you to the UNHCR for convening this panel. Thank you to all of the panelists. It was really interesting, and I learnt a lot from your presentations. To Ms. Mahbouba and Ms. Sarah, I really want to acknowledge your very strong and powerful voices as women. Your message is really important. It's easy for me to say this, but don't give up. We need to continue to hear from you, and we appreciate the effort that it takes for you to continue to be repeating messages about your rights year after year after year. We support you. Australia is pleased to support the Resolve for Resilience and Solutions pledge for the Afghanistan situation. This pledge affirms our continued commitment to the Global Compact for Refugees and demonstrates, with our other pledges, that responsibility sharing is not merely rhetoric, but a reality. Australia recognises the substantial generosity of refugee host countries. We acknowledge Iran and Pakistan's decades-long commitment to host displaced Afghans and encourage them to continue to act to uphold this important legacy. We are committing Australian dollars 20 million in humanitarian assistance in 2024 to support the needs of displaced Afghans and their host communities. This includes support to the most vulnerable in Afghanistan, including the internally displaced, to meet food, nutrition and livelihood needs. It's also supporting host countries to respond to priority humanitarian needs and build resilient communities through the Regional Refugee Response Plan for the Afghanistan situation, and to Afghan refugees and host communities in Pakistan to deliver health services to women and services to survivors of gender-based violence. This takes Australia's support to the Afghanistan situation to $71 million in 23-24 and $213 million since the onset of the 2021 Afghanistan crisis. Australia's humanitarian assistance provides health, shelter, protection and community-based education with a focus on women and girls and people with disabilities. Australia will also continue to provide flexible multi-year funding to address humanitarian need for displaced Afghans and create conditions conducive to voluntary repatriation. We reaffirm our commitment to 16,500 places allocated for Afghan nationals under our humanitarian resettlement program delivered between 2022-23 and 25-26. In addition to the ongoing 10,000 places for Afghan nationals allocated within the offshore humanitarian resettlement program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now we'll hear from Spain, Ms. Cecilia Robles, Director General for the UN International Organization and Human Rights of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you to the HCR for organizing this extremely interesting panel, and thank you to all of you for your presentations. Like many others, Spain has a strong commitment with the Afghan people. Since August 21, we have allocated more than 40 million euros for humanitarian aid aimed mainly at helping IDPs and refugees. We commend the solidarity, of course, of neighboring countries. This has been done through the HCR. Also, we have worked on health, sexual and reproductive health with the UNFPA and with the WHO, and of course in education with UNICEF. To Ms. Sarah Wahedi, I would like to react to what you said. Of course, we agree with you that help to the Afghan people must be delivered with, through, and for Afghan women and girls. We believe we are a country with a feminist foreign policy, and we are deeply convinced of that need. I want to refer to the Hear Us initiative, an initiative that we launched in 2022 to help the voice of Afghan women in exile being heard in Spain. We have also welcomed more than 500 women judges and prosecutors and human rights defenders and journalists who have applied for international protection and have been granted asylum in Spain. And I'd like to say that now currently we are the third European country the third recipient of asylum applications in the EU after Germany and France. And I would just like to conclude by saying that we welcome and that we support the Resolve multi-stakeholder pledge in line with the SSAR and with the United Nations strategic framework for Afghanistan. We intend to engage with it at all its levels, technical, financial, and political, and we are now currently working on reflecting on how to materialize our support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to hear from the World Bank, Mr. Xavier de Victor, Advisor Fragility, Conflict, and Violence Group, World Bank.
Well, many thanks, Cathy. Many thanks to UNHCR for organizing this event. And of course, many thanks to the panelists for sharing their experiences and their perspectives, which are very humbling. Afghanistan is the epitome of a protracted refugee crisis. And I just would like to echo what we've heard earlier about the importance of refugee protection, but also the importance of inclusive refugee policies and the successes that have been achieved at great effort by hosting countries, the importance of responsibility sharing while recognizing that this is an area where we collectively need to do much more. I also wanted to echo what we've heard about the importance of women's rights, which are obviously at the core of any sustainable development effort in any country, and especially in those where they are most challenged. We are also in a situation where we need to promote synergies between humanitarian and development partners in Afghanistan, and we are very pleased of our work in that respect through some of the projects we're financing in areas such as food security, livelihoods, and health, among others. But today, Afghanistan is also facing additional strengths following the return of large numbers of their citizens from Pakistan at a time of economic and social crisis. And therefore, we welcome the partnership with UNHCR to assess the impact of the crisis and to work together within the Afghanistan Coordination Group to strengthen our shared engagement. Many thanks.
Thank you very much. And now we'll hear from the UNDP, Ms. Heni Engu, UNDP Global Policy Advisor on Forced Displacement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cathy, and also to UNHCR as well for convening this. And the distinguished panelists, very thought-provoking reflections, which we will definitely take on board. Your Excellencies and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for UNDP to be here, and we are also proud to be a core group member of the SSAR. We very much welcome the Resolve multi-stakeholder pledge, and we see it as important to ensure that hosting nations are encouraged and supported to protect refugees, to make sure that returns are safe and voluntary, and that meeting refugee and returnee needs are well coordinated and adequately supported as part of an area-based humanitarian peace and development programming. At this Global Refugee Forum, in fact, together with Japan, with the government of Japan, we are also launching a multi-stakeholder pledge on promoting humanitarian peace and development nexus approaches, which is precisely to support hosting governments' efforts to ensure complementary support. For UNDP, this will mean deepening our development solutions programming in Afghanistan, in Iran, Pakistan, with UNHCR and partners as one UN. We are also, in Afghanistan, our approach has been to work through an area-based strategy called Abade, which is providing the most vulnerable with an integrated range of community services, entrepreneurship support, which combined, we hope it will make the communities more resilient. We are working with UNHCR and a vast number of partners very extensively in 80 designated priority areas of return and reintegration, known as the PARS. And we work together with UNHCR with their Co-Prosper strategy on community-based protection and solutions. Last year, we successfully transitioned about 14 priority areas of refugee returns into the Abade longer-term development programming, and we plan to incrementally transition the remaining districts. We have reached over 11.4 million people so far since 2021. We have been a lifeline for around 75,000 women-owned enterprises, leading the creation to over 900,000 jobs for women and youth. So little by little, we think solutions are possible. Through our new UNDP GRF pledge, we look forward to stepped-up development action, contributing to mitigate the devastating impacts of displacement that we have seen, to invest in solutions so that local communities, refugees, IDPs, and returnees not only recover but thrive together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all the participants. I'd like to just make one comment, and that's that there are 20 million, at least, Afghan women inside Afghanistan, and you can see how amazingly powerful the Afghan women are. So for all the people that are wanting to engage, they are in Afghanistan with whom you can engage. And I would like now to ask the panels, each in turn, to make a brief comment. I'm going to start with Sarah Wahidi, and then we'll work our way back, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy, for your wonderful leadership during this panel. I just want to finish off by saying that there are many Afghan women, and I'm focusing on Afghan women because we are pushing for the movement and the codification of gender apartheid as an entrenched law within international law. So this is something that I'm deeply passionate about, and I would say that I understand, like I had said before, that the world is extremely tired of Afghanistan, and as an Afghan, I can empathize with that. But we are seeing the systemic and very specific erasure of Afghan women. And I want to also preface this by, there are Afghan women and girls who want to go to school because of the fact that your countries have invested millions upon millions of dollars in these institutions. These are not schools that just popped up post, a few years. These are schools that have been developed since 2001, since the world first started to engage post 9/11 with Afghanistan. So these are schools, these are projects, these are women and girls who have been emboldened to pursue education because of you. It didn't come out of nowhere. To be honest, our previous governments were not privy to that kind of passion, and that came from you, and I want to thank you and commend you for that. But what needs to happen now is in strategic and innovative methods. Please engage with Afghan women. There are many ways to do so. You don't have to follow the same frameworks that perhaps the United Nations is privy to or member states. There are ways to engage with Afghan women. For example, at SSAR, we're working on ways to provide support for gender-based violence survivors, but not through the de facto regime and through other methods that I can't say publicly, but we are happy to engage. And there are many women like Madame Siraj and so many others who are doing fantastic work. And if your concern is about the de facto regime, I can promise you that there are ways that we can go around that. But I would say that you must not forget Afghan women. And like I said, you've invested in them. So please see it through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And Mr. Andres, if you would like to take a moment.
Yeah, I would very much echo what Sarah just said. There are ways to actually help women and girls in Afghanistan. It's very unpredictable how we work with women, for women, but it's possible. And as I said before, I think the worst thing would be to abandon Afghanistan. I think today, and thank you, Kathy, for the great introduction and for the statements just now, we see that there is continued commitment for Afghanistan, its people, and for the region. And that's really what we all have to uphold and strive for. And I thank the many announcements of commitments, some of them with an enlightened self-interest, some of them more targeting the Afghans in the region. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Mahbouba Siraj, please.
Thank you, everyone. I am the woman that actually is inside Afghanistan. I've been there since actually 2003. And then when the Taliban arrived in 2021, I did not want to leave Afghanistan. And I'm not going to leave Afghanistan. I'm an Afghan woman, born and raised in Afghanistan, did my education in that country, and I'm going to live and hopefully finish my life in there. So for that matter, I'm going to be the voice of the Afghan woman for as long as I can, and I'm going to be that. And for as long as I can, I'm going to be holding the world responsible with me to be the one that supports my voice for the Afghan women. Because as Sarah said, you were the ones that started the whole education and advancement of women in Afghanistan. How dare you leave them like that? Honestly. I mean, this is a shame. How do you do that? You just let them go? And like the way, and right now we are having one of the worst brain drain of our times. Twice this happened in Afghanistan. Once 1978 when I had to leave that country and everybody liked me, and then now again this time. We cannot afford this. We really cannot afford this. And then you came and you made all of this possible. The world made it possible. And you stood behind us and you said, let's give these girls, an opportunity to study. And we did give them the opportunity to study. And look what happened to them. They were all fantastic. I swear to you, the first day when I arrived in Afghanistan, the women of Afghanistan could not even go, ooh, like that. And then later on, when they were talking inside the meetings, they were roaring like a lion. How did you do that? How did we do that? Because you gave us opportunities. And then, in 2021, 15th of August, you dropped us. You dropped us like a hot potato, and that was the end of Afghanistan. Is that it? Is that it? And then you think we are going to forget it? And you think there are women like me that they are alive from whichever generation I am, I'm going to stop? No, I'm not going to. And I have raised and I've been standing behind the rest of the Afghan women the same like myself. And they are going to come and ask you, what happened to us? Because right now, they have been erased in that country completely. Completely. Nobody wants to even look at them anymore, let alone give them a chance to go to study. It's not happening. So please, do take your responsibility seriously. I really do.
Thank you very much, Mehbooba. I think she was explaining that you should be back inside listening and talking to Afghan women. If we could please hear from His Excellency Kapi, please.
Yes, thank you. I think we should support the Afghan people because a peaceful and stable Afghanistan is in the interest of everyone. Continued conflict and instability threaten not only Afghanistan and its people, but carries adverse implication for the entire region and the whole world. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. His Excellency Durrani, please.
Well, thank you, Kathy, and very valuable suggestions came up, and the plans by our countries, associate countries, and they have helped a lot. In my view, peace and stability in Afghanistan is of paramount importance, and the key to peace lies in the hands of Afghan people, no one else. So decide among yourselves, my dear Afghan brothers and sisters. Forget about outsiders and others. Peace is in your hands. Others are just intruders, so shun the intruders, reject the intruders, and success is yours. I cannot say further. The rest is a matter of details. Whether should we continue to keep the refugees, should 8 million Afghans remain refugees elsewhere in the world? You have to take a decision. For that, a lot of sacrifices are to be made, already being made, but through passive ways. So it's in your hands. No one can. No one will fight your war. You have to fight your own war. You have. It's in your hands, like it or not. It's in your hands. Shun the outsiders, including us. Shun everyone. But bring peace. Because Afghanistan needs peace. And that's in your hands. All of you, across the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, if we could please hear from His Excellency, Dr. Mobini.
تشکر میکنم از پیشنهاداتی که همه سخنرانان و شرکا و دولت‌ها و بخش‌های خصوصی مطرح کردن. من فکر میکنم که اگر تمرکز رو روی 4 مسئله اصلی بذاریم کار خیلی خوبیه. اولویت آوارگان، پناهندگان و مهاجران افغانستانی چیست؟ من در یک جمع‌بندی اگر بخوام عرض بکنم 6 اولویت اساسی اونها دارن. اولیش بحث درمان اینهاست. به شدت دچار مشکل هستند. هم در بحث بهداشت، هم سلامت، هم دارو، هم درمان. بیماری‌های واگیرداری که تو خیلی جای دنیا ریشه کن شده تو افغانستان گسترده است و این هم برای خودشون خطرناکه، هم برای جامعه میزبان، هم برای جامعه بین‌المللی. بحث‌های بهداشتی مشکلات بسیار زیادی دارن که از واکسیناسیون گرفته تا بهداشت فردی، بهداشت محیط و بهداشت زیست اجتماعی. در مقوله تحصیل، خب وقتی که حاکمان افغانستان این رو ممنوع کردن، کشور ما با سخاوتمندی تمام زنان و دختران را زیر آموزش برده، اما به دلیلی که اینها حتی برای تهیه قلم و دفتر و لوازم تحریر امکانات ندارن و مقاطع ابتدایی را کلاس اول دوم تا پنجم را اگر ادامه بدن به دلیل فقر نمیتونن ادامه بدن. این نیازه که کمک بشه برای تحصیل اونها. بحث بعدی کودکان کار. بخشی از کودکان که یا بی سرپرست شدن یا یتیمن یا بد زندگی میکنن مورد استفاده باندهای مافیایی قرار میگیرن که باید به صورت ویژه به کودکان توجه بشه. این بحث مهمی است. بخشی از سالمندان و سالخوردگان و افرادی که بضاعت اونچنانی از لحاظ قوای جسمانی ندارن و کسی هم نیست که اونها را حمایت و پشتیبانی کنه. عددشون هم عدد قابل توجهی است. اینا نیازه که حتما مورد توجه قرار بگیرن. و بحث ایتام و اقشار آسیب پذیر. اینا هم یک بحث مهمی است که جامعه افغانستانی که مهاجر در ایران، حالا در پاکستان هم که برادرم گفت، سایر جای دنیا هم به همین صورت. ما چون بیشترین مهاجر را، بیش از 70% مهاجرین افغانستان تو کشور ما وارد شده، ما هم سخاوتمندانه با اونها برخورد کردیم، برخوردم خواهیم کرد. ولی ببینید اگر 1 سال، 2 سال، 10 سال، 40 سال ما میزبانی کردیم، این شرایط استمرارش به دلیل اینکه حجم جمعیت روز به روز بیشتر میشه، امیدی به بازگشت نیست و چون امیدی به بازگشت نیست اینا همه رو میارن. ما روزانه افرادی رو میبینیم که هجوم میارن که بیان به سمت مرزهای ما. نتیجهش هم اینه که خب توان ما، تاب‌آوری کشور ما یک محدودیتی داره و این محدودیت نمیتونه خیلی ادامه پیدا کنه. جامعه جهانی هم نوع برخوردش با پناهندگان برخورد سیاسی است و خواهشم اینه که برخورد رو برخورد انسانی کنیم، برخوردی که نیازه برای کمک به بقیه انسان‌هایی که درد دارن، رنج دارن، آلام دارن. و خواهش آخرم هم اینه که همه این مباحثی گفته شد اینا به صورت برنامه‌های عملیاتی در بیاد. من تو صحبت‌های بعضی‌ها رقم و عدد دیدم، تو صحبت‌های بعضی‌ها دیدم که کلی است، کمک خواهیم کرد. اینکه چقدر کمک میکنیم، چگونه کمک میکنیم، به چه موضوعی کمک میکنیم، چه جامع هدفی را مورد توجه قرار میدیم، این بحث این اجلاسات، این جلساتی که به یک صورت برنامه مشخص عملیاتی قابل اندازه‌گیری مورد توجه قرار بگیره که بتونه کمک بکنه هم به آوارگان و پناهندگان و مهاجرین، هم به جامعه میزبان، هم به توسعه زیرساخت‌ها. این میتونه بخشی کوچکی از آلام، درد و رنج اونها را کاهش بده. متشکرم.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to our extraordinary panel. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you for participating. And if I could just again say, Afghanistan, as an outsider, is an incredible country with an amazing people. And they are not the problem. They really are the solution. And maybe you just have to get there to realize it. Thank you so much.